Let's do a serious exercise, something that you'll find useful in the real world. We'll create a daily stock market action summary. This involves downloading a zip file from the internet, from the stock exchange's website, unzipping it, and then summarizing the data in the CSV file that comes out. The zip file that we download will contain the data for the stock moves of a given day. Since it's a zip file, you need to unzip it and extract the contents of the zip file, which will be a CSV file. Once you unzip the file, in the CSV file, we'll have to analyze the data line by line and find the biggest movers and the most actively traded stocks. Then we'll summarize this data, whatever we have analyzed, into an Excel spreadsheet with the top 5 actively traded stocks for the day. So one of the many cool things that you will do in this exercise is auto-generate an Excel spreadsheet using a Python program. So let's go through what the input and output of this program will be, and we'll go through step by step what the program will actually do. As an input, the program needs a downloaded file from the National Stock Exchange website. The file that we'll download is a zip file with the stock information for today. So it will have all the stocks which were traded on the stock exchange and their opening price, closing price, and other information about the stocks for that given day. The output is an Excel file. It will have the top movers and the most heavily traded stocks for that day. The input file is zipped because it's a pretty big file. It has all the information about all the stocks for one day. So it needs to be unzipped. The Excel file needs to be created cell by cell. You need to say what data should be present in each cell of the Excel file's worksheet. So how do we get from this input to output? Step 1 is to download the zip file from the internet. Python has a 2-line way to download a file from an internet URL and then save it to a file on your local disk. In fact, the first line of this you've already done if you've done our exercise on downloading a URL from the internet. But there is a catch. The NSE tries to block automated scraping by programs. So if the NSE feels like a program is trying to access the website, it will block it. So we need to jump through a few hoops to convince the NSE that it's a human downloading the file and not a program. At the end of step 1, you should have a zip file in a location that you specified on your local disk. So step 2 is to unzip this zip file and get a CSV file extracted from the zip file. Before you do that, you need to make sure step 1 worked and the zip file that you expect to look for actually exists. Then open the zip file. Remember how we said a file is like a barrel, and in order to get the contents of the barrel, you need to open the barrel first. Then we'll use a library to get a list of all the files inside the zip file. We'll use a for loop to do so. This is like pouring out of the barrel. So we'll use a for loop to iterate through each file and extract it. We'll keep track of the list of files that we have unzipped in a list so that we'll know which are the files that we have extracted from within the zip file. Now, at the end of all of this, you have to remember to close the zip file. You have to close the barrel once you are done with it. Otherwise, the contents of the barrel can get contaminated. It turns out that this zip file will only have one CSV file. So we'll take the CSV file and process it line by line. We'll look at each line of the CSV file and get the specific data points that we need. This is the name of the stock ticker, the opening price, the closing price, the number of shares that were traded. These are the kind of data points that we are looking for. So we'll open the CSV file first. This is always the first step with any file handling. First, open the file. Then we use a CSV handler library to read each line of the file. Now, each of those lines will have a number of different data points or a number of different words, only some of which we care about. So we might only care about the opening price, closing price, and the number of shares that are traded, and not any of the other data points that are present in the file. So we will save the words that we care about, and then before we move on to the next step, you have to remember to close the file. Now, step 4 is to sort the contents of the list that we generated in the previous step and get the data we need to create our Excel file. So, in the previous step, we created a list of lists. Each list in this list of lists is the data corresponding to one ticker. This data is now arranged in rows and columns. The row is representative of one stock ticker or each stock which was traded today. And each row has 3 columns. These are the data points that we cared about. The stock ticker's name, the percentage change in the price of the stock, and the value of the stocks that were traded today. Now, we learned how for loops are a way to do something to every element of a list or every key value pair of a dictionary. Lambda functions are even cooler than for loops. Lambda functions, like for loops, are another way to do something to every element of a list. Using lambda functions, you can compress the code of an entire for loop into just one line of code. They're super cool, and we will use them to do something in this exercise. What we are going to do is use a lambda function to sort a list of lists. It's like magic. So, given data which is arranged in rows and columns, there's a way to sort this data by a particular column in a very easy way using just one line of code. It's exactly like magic. That's what lambda functions look like at first. You'll get used to them if you use them more and more. We'll leave that for now and we'll see it in action when we code it up. So at the end of step 5, you've taken this data which is in rows and columns and you've sorted it by the column that we care about, which is the percentage change in price. That is the highest moving stocks of the day. Now the top 5 of these stocks we want to put into an Excel file that we auto-generate and then save it. XLSX Writer is a library in Python that you can use to generate Excel files and manipulate them. It's a super simple way to create very complicated Excel files with charts, a lot of data, a lot of different sheets, and so on. You can open or create an Excel file. You can create graphs and whatever way you want to represent your data, and you can then close the Excel file. It's again more magic and the advantage of using modules or libraries. So these are the steps involved in taking an input as a zip file of stock moves for the day and getting an Excel sheet with the top 5 active stocks for the day. Let's take a look at how to code this up in the next few classes.